Let's get a quick take on the U.S. Supreme Court referencing Colorado's new laws regarding committees drawing congressional and legislative districts in its decision to not get involved with gerrymandering cases. Patty Calhoun from Westward. Colorado makes its appearance in a Supreme Court case. That was pretty cool, but it seems that maybe Colorado voters are showing the example of how gerrymandering is finally handled. What do you think?
Well, we did have to share credit with Michigan, so let's put that in perspective. This is because we passed Y and Z last election, which comes up with a redistricting committee for independents, for Republicans, for Democrats. It's an eminently reasonable program. However, I think the Supreme Court is a little optimistic if they think the entire country is going to follow Colorado's lead. The fact is, the reason this case went to the court is because other states are not as reasonable as Colorado is.
David Kopel from the Independence Institute and DU Law School. You are our esteemed lawyer at the table. Legal opinion-wise, is this a big deal? Is this the earth-shattering political decision of the Supreme Court that some people have been making it out to be?
Well, it's the Supreme Court chose not to shatter the earth in the sense that since the 1960s, they had been using the Equal Protection Clause of the Constitution to impose what they called a one-man, one-vote system. So, for example, that ultimately was held to that the way the Colorado State Senate was apportioned, which was partly based on geography and the interest people have there rather than purely on population, that was unconstitutional, even though many states had that when the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause, were ratified. So the court, I think, decided not to open up a whole other can of worms, because if you do that, how are you going to say whether this is too partisan, this is not partisan enough? You know, of course, it always comes into consideration. And Colorado, which has been better than some other states on gerrymandering, even with our various systems, is not imperfect. The previous system basically gave the deciding vote on the commission to the appointees of the Chief Justice, which made it the indirect appointment of the governor. And that's why, for example, even though Republicans won a majority of votes for the Colorado House of Representatives in 2014, Democrats retained control of the chamber.
Natasha Gardner, Articles Editor with 5280. What do you think about Colorado making its appearance in a majority opinion at the Supreme Court, and then what the Supreme Court decided?
Well, I think as sort of highlighted already, it's a pretty optimistic view. We haven't really proven that it works, but it's nice to say that, okay, Colorado, you have a good plan, or what seems like a good plan. I was reading something this morning that talked about how this simply moves the stage from a federal to a more local level. But that's what it is. It just moves the debate to a smaller stage, but many more stages. And so this history of gerrymandering in this country, it's long, it's extensive. We are not very good at it. We've shown that time and time again, that depending on who's in power, that it's likely that they will try to sway this to their advantage. So I am hopeful that Colorado's new approach could do a better, provide a better example for that. It sounds like so is the Supreme Court, so that's always nice. But I think we're going to need a few more election cycles to prove that we actually deserve that praise.